How's it going, boys and girls? My name is Michael SK, and today we're going to be checking out Iridescence. I was given the opportunity to check out another indie visual novel, and this one has a pretty interesting art style, I have to admit. That's actually probably the biggest hook that got me into this. I'm very hesitant when it comes to indie visual novels, but there's just something about the art style here and kind of what it's going for that has me a little curious, so I thought, you know, no harm, no foul. Let's go ahead and jump in. Check out what this visual novel actually has going for it. Thank you to Cami Critters for getting me an early access copy of the visual novel. It's just, I've been kind of tied up with things going on in my life that I'm getting to this a whole month and a half, if even that, after the release of this one. So this is already out. It's about $10. I think of the time I'm recording this, it is 10% off, so you can save $1. So if this seems interesting to you, please check the link in the description and pick up the title, you know, support the indie developers in the visual novel scene. But we very quickly just jump right into it. Hey there, great to meet you. Great to meet you, of course. My name is... Actually, you know what? I want to make sure you get it right, so let me spell it out. Oh yeah, we get a... This is also the first, I played like maybe 2 minutes of this. This is the first time I've ever seen a genuine full-on emoji. Like, I know that there's Unicodes and everything, but this is a full-on emoji in a visual novel. This is an absolute first for me. That may be a turnoff for a whole lot of people. I just think it's funny. So I guess we have to type a name. So we'll use my real name. We'll use my real name for this one, Jefferson. That's right, Jefferson here. Oh, we actually really get to describe ourselves here. No, Jefferson, as I am, that's definitely me, is a guy. Now let me tell you about a girl. Okay, now you got me interested. Sure, I've had crushes before. Until recently, I would even tell you that I was in love with some of them. But I'm wiser now. Meeting Kira changed everything. Ooh, to the point where I don't recognize who I was before her. It's like I'm living in a different world entirely. And most of it seems brighter, some of it duller, but everything is much more saturated. That gets old real fast, trust me. Like, you think, ooh, pretty colors, but then you realize you have to look at those pretty colors all the time. So it does get a little old, trust. Looking back over our time together on this island, it's hard to distinguish just how much of it was genuine. I don't doubt that I was coerced as a means to an end, but the fact that my feelings still linger so forcefully despite everything must mean something. Surely. Sorry, this is difficult for me. Let me explain. I felt an instant connection the very second we locked eyes. Cheesy, but it really did feel like love at first sight. And it went beyond a physical attraction. We often ended up passionately debating until the sun went down. Even when our views were opposed, I felt only warmth from her. It didn't matter what we did, whether we ended up laughing until we cried or just sat quietly and watched the world go by. Every moment we had felt precious. We were the only people in the world when we were together. It was addictive. I'm not proud to admit it, but I spent the majority of the time we weren't together just longing to see her. Even then, I think deep down I knew it was too good to be true. Knowing the intensity of my feelings for Kira, you may not be surprised to hear that I passed out the first time we kissed. Oh, I really just want to say something messed up right now to that. That's weak, man. Come on. You gotta get it together. Sure, initially my heart raced to the point where I was worried I could be having a heart attack, but that wasn't why I lost consciousness. In fact, it was the opposite. I felt my heart rate rapidly slow as she kissed me. It got slower and slower until eventually my consciousness began to ebb away. The piercing green of her eyes, yep, those are green eyes, slowly seeped from her irises as my life force was drained from... Okay, this isn't a woman. This is a succubus. You want to be careful with those. And stolen by her. Oh yeah, definite succubus or like vampire, something among the, demonic legends. I wanted to move to pull away, but I couldn't. I was trapped. At this point, I suspect you're wondering how I'm here telling you all of this. Well, despite Kira having ripped the souls from countless victims, this time was different. She hesitated just a moment before the last of my life left me and pulled away. Wait, she was actually killing us. This isn't actually like a metaphor or anything. No, this is real. Once my heart rate had stabilized and I awoke, Kira explained everything. Ah, fuck, she's actually a mermaid. Kira was an embodiment of the sea, the daughter of deities. She had made a pact which allowed her to take human form, but to maintain it, she owed a payment. One human soul every lunar cycle? Really? That's a lot of killing. I know, it's a lot to wrap your head around. Don't worry, I don't expect you to believe me. There are times when I doubt it myself. But both the warmth and darkness of her eyes are seared into my mind. Please don't misunderstand me. I may be a victim, but so was she. To understand this, though, firstly, you need to truly understand that Kira was never human, nor would she want to be. I say truly because you need to detach from everything you know, all that you have experienced since first opening your eyes. She saw the world through an entirely different lens, one we can never fully understand. Kira had lived countless years in the depths of the ocean, a world we still know very little about, let alone how our actions impact it. As far as I'm concerned, Kira had good reason to despise our world, and she did. Well, at least until she met me. I know, I cringe saying it, but in fairness, they're her words, not mine. Kira said that when she made the deal to walk on land, she had never once contemplated not being able to fulfill her end of the contract, that she would ever have an issue killing a human. But because of me, Kira was unable to pay the debt of her pact, and so silhouetted by the light of the full moon, her body was mercilessly ripped from her. And with that, my heart too shattered into 1,000 pieces. After that day, things were a blur. As if I was constantly squinting, but something happened that forced me to open my eyes wide. Little did I know that the time I'd spent with Kira on this mysterious island had been in fact just a prelude. Having fought through more than my fair share of hardships from a young age, I already had a tried and tested coping mechanism firmly in place. There's no grand scheme behind it, it's quite simple really. Numbness. Oh yeah. 100% there, brother. I merely avoid processing difficult situations altogether, not allowing any emotion to surface. I figured I would just unbottle and work through it all later in life. That's a terrible idea, trust me. Once things had stabilized. They never stabilize. My time with Kira had heightened my emotions to a level I hadn't thought possible, which made my strategy harder to execute this time. Losing Kira was like the first time a baby experiences pain. It had a profound freshness. I was angry at myself for letting my guard slip. I knew better. I didn't break routine. I went to school the very next day, confident that no one would notice anything out of the ordinary with me. What I wasn't prepared for is that even as the days passed, not one person asked about Kira. Her desk just sat empty, seemingly content with its fate. The main way I dealt with the pain was through distraction, and luckily Kira had left a lot to distract me with. Reality had most definitely been turned on its head. As summer approached, I found myself taking walks along the coast after school, willing the cool sea breeze to travel through my ears and clear my mind. I should have known that it wouldn't be the wind, but the sea that would hear my silent pleading. It's ironic, really. This next chapter started much in the same way as the first. I walked transfixed by the lapping waves, wondering how much they truly concealed as I used the wetness under my feet to navigate the tide line. If I'm being totally honest, what I was really wondering was if Kira was down there somewhere, at least in some capacity. It had been her world, her life for countless years. She had poured her soul into guiding its fate and helped it overcome adversity time and time again. Surely it could return the favor. I gripped her bracelet, which I wore on my wrist. As the sharp shells dug into me, they relieved just a little bit of the pain. Unfortunately, this was one of the many unhealthy coping mechanisms that I had unconsciously integrated into my daily life, words. The pain was quickly replaced with anger, as it so often was, more at myself than her. I ripped off the bracelet, the chain snapping as I did so. I clenched it tightly in my fist, seeking the pain to return. to force away the moisture I could feel welling in my eyes. With a primal cry, I hurled it far into the sea, the shells escaping the chain one by one as it flew towards the setting sun. I was exhausted and the water in my eyes blurred my vision, but it looked like fleeting clouds of vapor burst from the moment where each shell hit the water. I quickly rubbed my eyes, but by the time my vision sharpened, any signs of the bracelet having ever existed were gone. As I unclenched my fists, I felt my knees weaken. I fought the urge to fall to the warm sand and instead gulped down how I was feeling, closing my eyes and counting backwards from 5 as I did so. Hey, yo. When I reopened them, I saw a girl standing contemplatively, there we go, on the rolling tide, the water rippling around her feet. I gulped again as I rapidly tried to blink away the specter, but with no luck. Despite her wavering opacity, her piercing pale green eyes glowed intensely in the low light. For a second, it was as if Kira had returned, until I registered that they also held a childlike innocence. It wasn't her eyes alone that struck a chord with me, so she was also wearing our school uniform. But how could that be possible? The school was small. I would have noticed her. She was striking. Her pale complexion and fiery red hair almost made it seem like she was in command of the setting sun. It was more than just her appearance, though. She had exuded a powerful aura, one I now recognized as beyond human. I had no time to dissect this, though, as her tone held urgency. God damn it. I forgot about the name. Jefferson. I didn't need to respond. My reaction was answer enough. Our time is brief, so you'll have to excuse the lack of pleasantries. My name is Melody, and like Kira, I am also of the sea. Unconsciously, my eyes widened at the moment of her name. You, Jefferson, are an anomaly, but I have a feeling you already know this. Her eyes narrowed. The choices you and Kira have made have had a catastrophic effect. As it often did in moments like this, my sense of self dispersed. It was as if I was being told a fairy tale. As she spoke my name, it seemed unrecognizable. Still, I made sure I absorbed every word she said. I come on behalf of my sisters to tell you that it is imperative that you set things right before it's too late. Jefferson, God damn it, you have access to a world we don't, and I so implore you, hear our plea. Melody reached into her pocket and held something in the palm of her hand. She was too far away for me to make it out. Here, Melody said, blowing onto her palm. I felt an icy breeze hit me as the spectral object was carried towards me, swaying ever so slightly. I raised my arm and barely felt it hit my open hand, but I instinctively closed my fingers around it all the same. I opened my fist to find a shimmering, iridescent feather, which, like Melody, wavered in opacity, as if between two worlds. Study it carefully, as you're the only one who can do this. I looked up at her blankly, The sea is without a guardian. There is another, but she is lost. This feather is hers. Melody gave me a doubtless smile as she and the feather faded away. I used the remaining I used the remaining precious few seconds to etch its image into my mind. Jefferson. Her voice was faint, but that's our name, and she was gone before she could even really start her sentence. As the ripples where Melody had stood disappeared, I reconnected to my body, and I felt a weight in my stomach and noticed my fingers were quivering. I was shaking all over. Melody had not only forced the pain I had been holding down to the surface, but she had added extra weight on top of it. Everything, literally everything, now rested on my shoulders, and I wasn't strong enough. How could I be? I violently threw up, which only heightened the shaking. It was all too much. I had never felt so pathetic, so frail. The journey home was grueling. Damn, we got a fucking nice-ass room here. Holy shit. I was not expecting this. Man, we got the freaking shell phone there on the desk. We got the beanbag chair. We have the fish that hangs above our bed, but in a beautiful way. It's like our home is also like a church to pray to the sea life. As soon as I hobbled through the door, I made a beeline for the bottle of pills on the cabinet, hands still shaking. I reached in and took one. Slumped against the wall, I waited for what felt like forever, but the shaking didn't subside. I needed it to subside. For a split second, a longing I thought I'd trained away from creeping back. I wished more than anything I had something to look after me, or someone. I took another pill, and another. I closed my eyes tight and waited again. That's how you OD, man. Nothing. I picked up a fourth pill, panting heavily and sweating profusely. As I reached towards my mouth, the combination of my clamminess and the violent shaking sent the pill flying out of my hand and across the floor. Without making a sound, tears began streaming down my face. I pulled myself onto the bed as my body writhed. I gave up trying to resist and let the pain take control, until eventually it took all I had to give. I was grateful when I felt my consciousness ebb away. And it's morning. A stabbing pain in my stomach woke me early the next morning, which didn't surprise me. My head was spinning as I ran to the bathroom and violently threw up. We're doing a whole lot of that recently. As my stomach had been empty, it was painful, but I was just grateful I hadn't taken more pills. Although sore, I felt better as I sipped some water and nibbled on a bit of stale bread. God damn, we have such a nice room, but we're eating stale bread? It was a strange feeling, probably hard to comprehend unless you have experienced something similar yourself, but a part of me felt renewed. No, actually, this kind of reminds me when I was like horribly sick. I was living in an apartment at the time, but my first semester of university, I had gotten like a horrible fever, just like general sick, symptoms and everything, fever, chills, whatever, just felt like shit. And I had to quickly feel better because I think the next day, or like it was a Friday, I remember that, I had a midterm. We had 2 midterms in many of my classes in university, and this was a midterm for physics. And if you just totally miss a midterm, like you're not passing the class. Like you need those points. They're absolutely precious. So trying to get over that, like waking up in the morning, getting that water, taking the pills that I need to take, trying to get all the rest, sweat it out. Yeah, I felt absolutely terrible, and I don't know how I was conscious, but I got good enough that I can try and like get out there, and I passed that midterm somehow. Felt like shit, but I did. It was as if I had needed that intensity to fill the few remaining blank areas of my slate with scribbles, leaving me with no choice but to wipe it clean and start afresh. Damn, look at this town. That was beautiful. I decided to get some fresh air, but took things slowly to give my body a bit of a break. I ambled around town for a few hours, striking things I'd avoided from my to-do list. All the shopkeepers seemed genuinely happy to see me, and perhaps seeing I was in need of it, they were keen to chat, which I appreciated. None of them mentioned Kira, even though I had always been with her, which was odd, but at the same time, I was becoming more comfortable with being seen as an individual. Excuse me. After a relatively productive day, I decided that some crab fishing, which I secretly enjoyed far more than I had let on, would help clear my mind. I received a phone call on the way there. This is a call to remind you to have your affairs in order as you will be relocated after your final exams. My throat tightened. But transport has been arranged, with a taxi booked to take you to the airport. It was an automated voice. Be packed and ready to leave by 10 a.m. the day after your final history exam. Channeling my frustration into my foot, I unleashed it on the wall next to me. This wasn't wise. Hopping around, I wondered why I was so frustrated. I was effectively being given an escape, a chance to leave the pain and responsibility behind. I'd like to say that the frustration came from an honorable place, that I understood the gravity of my role, and that I wanted to finish Kira's story for her. But that wouldn't be true. In actuality, I'd merely reached the end of my tether. I had neither the physical nor mental capacity to move again. It was never discussed openly, but I understood why I had been moved around my whole life. I didn't need to be told that I wasn't like everyone else. Believe me, I knew. Still, understanding the reason didn't make it any easier. I had always vehemently stuck to the unspoken rules placed on me. I kept my head down and got on with things. I made a point of never drawing attention to myself. Kira was the one who approached me. She was the one who changed things. I had wanted to keep my distance, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. I sat on the dock for what must have been hours, letting both time and my thoughts meander by. I was catching far fewer crabs than when I came with Kira, and I wondered if her presence had drawn them in. I absent-mindedly played with my phone as I considered my situation. I love this fading that it's doing. That is beautiful. Gliding it back and forth as or across the withered planks, making sure it didn't fall through the gaps. Just who is Melody? She must be connected to the bracelet somehow. And then it struck me. Something Kira had mentioned suddenly came back to me. She told me each of the shells on the bracelet belonged to a dear friend. Maybe one of them was Melody's. I froze as a gust of wind interrupted my thought. It sounded like it carried a single note with it, almost as if someone or something had flown past. We all constantly experience things that are out of the ordinary. The brain is good at brushing them off, keeping reality rigid. If something like this happened previously, I probably wouldn't have given it a second thought, but my eyes had been opened and I was learning to listen more. Someone was trying to tell me something, I was sure of it. I unpaused and continued gliding my phone back and forth as I wondered how I'd even find the feather. The rhythm of the bumpy planks with the pauses of the gaps helped me think. Would I even have time? The end of term was only a few weeks away. Unless... I purposely tilted my wrist and felt a rush of satisfaction as my phone plopped into the water below. Out of sight, out of mind, I said, grinning triumphantly at the crabs. The fuck? Aw, look at that. The smallest one, a hermit crab, 3 centimeters long at most, waved up at me, seemingly in response. I looked around to double check that I was alone before giving him a little wave back. He stopped waving immediately and stood there motionless. This made me laugh a lot harder than it should have. Love you too, bud, I said affectionately. Right, on that note, we should probably all head home, eh? I rested the bucket on its side over some rocks. The large crab scuttled out immediately, but my new buddy was steadfast. I tried gently prodding at him in the right direction, but he defiantly retreated into his shell. As I pondered my next move, he sheepishly peered out. He looked over at me and waved hopefully. I waved back with my single finger, which he responded to by scuttling closer. Want to hang out for a while longer, little bud? Sleep over at mine? He was still waving, which I took as a yes. I added some more seawater and a few rocks to the bucket before heading off. I chatted to Marvin, well, he looked like a Marvin, on the way back as he excitedly scurried around his holiday home. Come on, if I can fall in love with someone from the sea, is chatting to a crab really that odd? Yes. All jokes aside, I was grateful for the company, even if it was only just one small step removed from talking to myself. I mean, it kinda is just that. I fell into a deep sleep that night, which was something I desperately needed. I felt a sense of peace when I woke up. Warmth emanated from the window, and I buried my head under the duvet, trying and delay my transition into the waking world. I let my eyes acclimatize. I've never actually seen that word, but okay, I'm with you. To the filter light before poking my head out to check the time. 10:23, I'd slept for almost 12 hours. Result: my body had definitely needed it. My symptoms were a lot more manageable when I was well rested. Whoa. I looked over at the table to see how Marvin was faring, but he wasn't alone. I quickly darted my head back under the covers and heard the giggling of a little girl. Was I still dreaming? I squeezed my eyes shut tight before poking my head back out. I opened them slowly. Nope, she was definitely still there. Okay, so this game is definitely not voiced. I thought it was, actually. Is there anything here of like a... No, there's nothing here for a voice volume. So, just a little note here is that on the Steam page it said that it was voiced in English, or at least I thought that's what I saw, but that could have been a mistake. Okay. So this person is named Ayasal. Okay, quite the name. She chirped cheerfully. What's your name? Jefferson. I responded hesitantly. Well, it's nice to meet you, Jefferson. She chirped, still beaming. And this is Marvin, right? She pointed inside the bucket she was hovering over. I nodded matter-of-factly. Wait, how did she know his name? He says he likes his name and the bucket, but that you're a bit of a downer. Yeah, a little bit. God damn, you've got giant-ass eyes. I'm just gonna throw that out there. But you do blink. I am now noticing that you do blink, so you got that going on for you, but your eyes are freakishly huge. He also says he's hungry. Oi. Oi. I was about to launch into 100 questions, but was promptly cut off. Let's go to the beach and catch him some brine shrimp. Ayasal said with a forceful look. Oh, yeah, there's actually choices to be made. Okay, give me a couple of minutes to get ready. Hold on, I've got some questions for you. Now, we gotta take care of Marvin here. I said defeatedly. We can talk on the way. Yeah, that works. But we gotta make sure Marvin is the priority here. I went to the bathroom, splashed some water on my face, and absent-mindedly threw on a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. Ayasal looked up from the bucket and smiled as I reemerged. Ready? She asked, holding out her hand. I couldn't help but return her smile as I took it. The journey felt reminiscent of walking a dog. All right. Ayasal was very energetic, constantly bounding ahead to take a closer look at something before running back, seemingly overjoyed in taking my hand. There was something very charming about her expression as she ran back. It was accomplished, almost smug, and it made me chuckle every time. It's a good, excuse me, it's okay, you don't have to be shy. I like questions. Okay then. How old are you? Where are your mommy and daddy? You know what, let's ask this because that might give us an idea of her, where she came from, her origins. Obviously, she's not a normal character whatsoever, so we gotta try and piece things together. Her brows furrowed as she concentrated. I don't think I can remember my mummy or daddy at the moment. She looked away. It's okay. I remember they love me though, so I'm not lonely. Okay, why were you in my room this morning, or how did you know that Marvin was hungry? Okay, let's go with that one. She looked at me inquisitively. He told me. Ayasal, did you come from the sea? I didn't need a response. I saw her cheeks flush as she looked away. She's dripping with water, of course she did. Actually, no, she's not dripping with water. Those are just beads on her dress. Yeah, she's got beads everywhere, actually. Okay, that really threw me off. Do you know why you've come on land? Without turning back, she shook her head. I paused for a moment, considering my words. Do you think maybe there's a special reason? Well, I guess we'll just have to find out together. No, we'll ask this. Ayasal went to speak, but stopped herself. I waited for a moment, but she didn't continue. It's okay, you don't have to say anything you don't want to. But please know that I'm here to help you. I said, offering a warm smile. She nodded once, but concern remained plastered over her face. I took the 2 strands of hair that framed her face and made a funny noise as I gently pulled on them. She giggled as I stuck out my tongue. So we know Marvin's hungry, but how about you? She nodded as she rubbed her face. Let's get you some seaweed, or how about a pastry and a milkshake? I actually don't know how we want to approach this one. Okay, nope, that was the right one. You know what? You cannot go wrong with a milkshake. Like, unless you're, you just cannot do anything with milk if you're, if that just completely messes up your insides and all that. Just don't do the milkshakes. Thank you, Jefferson. Yes. Ayasal was bouncing up and down excitedly by the counter. They have Rocky Road. All right, you suck. Sorry, guys, I cannot do Rocky Road. I can't do any of those wacky ice cream flavors. They just suck. I choked a little in surprise. Must be a sea thing. What are you going to get? Good question. This place always has some great limited flavors. I think I'll go with a s'more than enough or a butter biscuit bonanza. What the fuck? I guess we'll do the s'more than enough. Good choice. I suppose so. We had a Steam achievement for that one, I think. Oh yeah, there's Steam achievements in this. So there's another thing for you guys. Want to go and choose a table and I'll get the goods? Although popular, it was too early to be busy, so I was easily able to keep an eye on her. Ayasal had gone straight to the glass rail that lined the patio. Holding herself up on her tiptoes, she peered over the edge, seemingly transfixed on the sea. I put down our milkshakes on the table and went to put my hand on her shoulder, but there was an intensity in the air which made me hesitate. What happened to choosing a table, eh? She turned around sharply, her eyes glazed. Ayasal, the sea, it's... She whispered, barely audible. Color slowly returned to her face as she watched my expression blankly. Her expression shifted to embarrassment when she realized what had happened. I mean, we can drink them on our way to the sea, please. Yeah, we can do that. She stuttered, cheeks flushed. Ayasal. I started, but she cut me off. Please call me Aya. I want to start fresh. She didn't sound at all like a child in that moment. I was taken aback, but tried not to show it. Aya, it suits you well. I have a milkshake for my friend Ayasal, but I suppose you can have it instead, Aya. She smiled from ear to ear as I handed it to her. Come on then, let's go. We can't leave Marvin out. He is important. I surveyed my limited edition milkshake excitedly, wondering where to start. I don't know whether to scoop off the whipped cream in pieces on top or to just dive right in. I always mix it. I was aware that I sounded like a kid, but it's the effect sweet things had always had on me, and besides, it was too much effort to grow up completely. I mean, look at me. I'm still playing games of all types, and you know what? Some may say it's pretty childish, but they might be right. I looked over at Aya to see what her strategy was. Seriously, I was just in time to watch her slurp up the last few drops. She looked at the empty cup and beamed. That was really yummy. Thank you, Jefferson. Thirsty, were you? A little, she said unironically. Can I please try some of yours? Yeah, I guess. Why not? Aya recoiled after taking just a sip. Don't like it? I'm surprised. It's great. It's too salty. Are you sure you're from the sea, Aya? I asked, tongue-in-cheek. Her cheeks flushed as she nodded. I couldn't help but chuckle at her sincerity. That was the old me, though. I'm a land girl now, she said with determination. Her unwavering expression left me with only one response. Of course you are. I offered up a reassuring smile, unsure whether it effectively masked my apprehension. Maybe it was due to my own fragility, but I had an overwhelming urge to protect her, to keep her safe. Don't get me wrong, I understood how the odd situation was, but I had never lost awareness of that, but the warmth I felt for her didn't feel out of place. I suppose part of me instinctively knew how important she was, not necessarily in terms of Kira or Melody, but to my own story. Alright, so that will be our glance here at Iridescence. We'll call it on that one. Save it right there. Honestly, this seems pretty interesting. You know, I have to say the art is definitely still carrying here. The music is very, very nice, actually. It's really well put together tracks that I've heard so far. I mean, even the one here is very nice. So, the game has these two things going on. The story has not hooked me yet. The main character here has not hooked me whatsoever, but I guess the mystery of this short story is figuring out who she is and how she connects with things that happened before this story is, starting. So there is a already constructed, course of events here, as we're jumping in. But I don't know. I feel like it's going way past a whole lot of details that I'd like to know from the get-go, but I guess things are just getting implied enough so that you can kind of figure some things out as we go along. I just feel like since there's so many crazy, far from reality type shit going down, I'd want some more explanations, I'd like to see some of these things and know specifically what they were to get an idea of what we're kind of dealing with. That's just me. Here's the gallery, by the way. So there's 9 CGs. It is a pretty short visual novel. I guess we didn't get any of the CGs, though there were some very beautiful shots in the very beginning. So I guess there is a bit to see. There's a bit to go through. There is some branching choices that you can make. So that's Iridescence. seems pretty interesting, and I'll probably try to sit down and go through it a little bit more to kind of see what we have going on here. But the fact that I'm even considering that being something I'd want to do should tell you guys something. You know, there might be something here to get out of it if any of this seemed interesting to you. Thank you again to Cami Critters for getting me a copy of the game. I'm sorry it took as long as it did. Congratulations on the release of the title to those that had put it together over on Steam. Again, if you guys are interested in this, link in the description below. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe for some of the other stuff that I record here on the channel, and I'll see you guys in another video. Take it easy.